One. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Inside Cafe. I'm your host, 𝗔𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and today I have my dear friend, one of my best friends, actually, Kryssie Thomson from Canada. And so my intro. Dun, 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 dun. Kryssie is one of the realest people I know in the world. And Kryssie does amazing work with leaders all around the world. And to me, she is so good at helping people be more of who they really are and just opening themselves up to the power that comes with being more of who they really are. And me and her talked about what we were going to talk about. And she came with a cool topic straight off the bat. She said, no bullshit leadership. So let's you and me explore no bullshit leadership. So where well, let's just start with a punchline. Like, to you, what is no bullshit leadership, and like, where did it come from for you?
First, hey, Nikon. How's it going? It's like Nikon's in the no bullshit. We're just going into this thing.
Yeah. Hey,
um,
Kryssie.
so for me, honestly, so many people are afraid to really speak their truth.
Mm,
Um, in the world, they're afraid of what people are going to think of them. They're afraid of so many different things on just being able to be their own selves. And so to me, it's just, and I mean, I was there. So
mm,
a lot of it is just, to me, it's just like, how can we stand out and grow exponentially exactly how we are without that wonder about what somebody's going to think, say, or do, and then just stand for our authenticity.
mm.
Isn't that a cool way to live? That's what
Yeah, like, so tell me more, like, what is authenticity mean to you? Because I think that, like, that's a word, especially in the personal development world. I think it's a word that's thrown around a lot. So it'd be cool to get
Mm,
clarity on what that means to you.
mm. It kind of comes in two different forms because there's a part of truth to self
Mm,
first and foremost, but it's also in the vulnerability side of
mm,
really owning what's there for you. A lot of times, um, vulnerability or emotions or the emotion intelligence side of workplace and leaders or any type of space in general is considered in some mindsets weakness. And so I'm challenging the thought saying, okay, so if we can stand in our truth of vulnerability and our true self to what we're thinking, of being able to set really powerful boundaries without the scarce mindset of the resistance that might come in form of somebody else having a reaction to our being, that's the authenticity that I love. And I mean, you know me, I shoot from the hip. I mean, I have a bold filter. No, I don't have a filter. I have a screen door. Maybe I have a screen door, no filter. But you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
authenticity is just when you can be in somebody's presence and just know there's no bullshit to them.
Speaking to a mentor, I'm gonna say his name wrong, 𝗧𝗵𝐺𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and he
Hmm.
asked me where presence comes from,
Mm,
and I really sat with that, and what came up and what just felt true is it's not charisma, it's not something I try and do. Like, to me, presence is really, I'm gonna use the G word. It's like God. It's like you show up and there's this energy about you where you don't have to say anything, where you're just real. And I
mm.
think it's like almost influence without trying to influence people. Like, people can't help but be drawn to that very real energy.
Well, it comes into the play of there's gifts and then there's the dark sides, but
Mm,
everybody has an essence. So
mm,
live in essence. Who was it? I believe it was Dr. Wayne Dyer
mm,
said, instead of trying to find purpose, just
mm,
live on purpose. And that's what I
mm,
search for. That's a great way to, if I was to use Dr. Wayne Dyer's stuff, but that would be, it's just living on purpose. So if you can, and if you're living on purpose, then you can only be your authentic self.
mm.
That's so cool, right? So
Yeah.
what is it to you? I'm curious. What is it for
What's
you?
what?
Like if I say authenticity, what
Uh,
does that mean to you?
um, to me, that's a good question. To me,
Did you know
the
that I was
first
going to
thing,
start asking you
there's two
questions?
parts that come up. There's one part where someone's overdoing it and they're trying really hard to be authentic, and it's just like, you're like, it's really it's almost like fakeness, like, look at me, I'm really
Yeah, but
authentic.
that wouldn't be authenticity, right?
Right. So it's like
Right.
fake
Yeah.
authentic. But then there's this other side, and I think where I've really experienced authenticity, and I think I experienced that a lot when I'm around you. The moment you pick up the phone, I know it's really you.
Hmm.
And what I mean about that is, to me, it's what comes through you when you're not being self-conscious about what you're trying to
Yeah.
be in the world, or what you're trying to prove, or be liked, or any of that shit. It's what comes through you
Hmm.
when you're not so busy thinking about yourself. And what actually, I don't know where this is going, but the thought that comes to mind is, I asked somebody once, like, why is it so hard for us to see our own brilliance and so easy for other people to see our brilliance? And I think the answer that I got that made the most sense to me is because it's not really yours. It's what comes through you, and
Right.
you're the vessel for this authenticity, right? So I guess what I'd love to point to with you is, what what's on offer for being authentic? Like, why is that something that more leaders should pay attention to? How can that help in our business, or our lives, or relationships?
Well, so like attracts like, right? We know this. There's no reason or no well, there's an odd reason why you and I met, but the fact is like there's no mistake why you and I are connected.
Mm,
We have a lot of very similarities. You
mhm,
come from an authentic mind, soul, whichever. But there's part of, especially in business, and I've realized this with our other company, when I just show up and I can come into the workspace. I'm a leader. I'm one of the owners of this company, and we have staff here. We have a staff of 27. And imagine if I just came into the workspace and I was in a rough ass mood and I just wasn't ready to start my day because I had 10 other things coming down the
mm,
pipeline. And I had to switch my thinking to something that I thought that was less value, but my staff needed to be directed.
mm,
So imagine me coming in there, and I'm just like hypothetically speaking, me coming in there in a shit ass mood because I have my mind set over here.
mm,
Instead, I can just say to my staff, hey guys, like my head is not in place right now. Is there a way that you guys can set yourself up for the day so I can focus on this and I'll come check back with you in an hour? Most people won't show up like that because it's a form of weakness to say that I'm not ready for the day and this is supposed to be our leader. But it actually shows that it's okay to speak what's really truth to ourselves. Yes, the higher up you get in corporations and CEOs, there's a need to know way to be, but it's still in an emotional intelligence way, just saying, look, I'm not like people can feel energy. I don't care who you are. You know that that's true. You can feel energy. So if I walk in stressed, tight, whichever, they know it. It's
mm,
like I'm slamming them against the wall because my focus is somewhere else, and they can take that directly as a hit towards them because they're not developed in their personal development or in their understanding of other people's ways of being or whichever, because it's our staff is a younger staff. So I have to be really mindful that I can say in my authentic self, just say, I'm not at my best today. And I'm okay with that. And so you guys figure your stuff out. If you need any guidance, so and so is going to be your lead today, blah, blah, blah. It
mm,
just gives this, well, it's just that real and raw self that I choose to show up with, in the sense that they know I'm not pissed at them. I'm not in a mood with them. And because that starts out that way, and I'll be like, I'll just give me 5, I'll be good in a bit. It's worked out amazing that I can do that. And then when I go to them, there's no like, oh, here comes Kryssie. Let's see what mood she's in today. They
mm,
already know it's not about
mm,
them. I'm just have to do this. I'll see you in an hour, and I'm good. So like like, is there an experience that you can think of that you've been in somebody's presence that doesn't, you just all of a sudden assume that it's about them? And I had that happen to me so many times, and
mm,
it's almost like I've made myself a promise that I wouldn't do that. I mean, I'm in practice of it. Sometimes, my reaction happens before my brain kicks in. At the same time,
Yeah.
yeah,
Me
at the
too.
same time, it's owning your shit. It's
Yeah.
just owning being that real and authentic and being okay with saying, oh man, I messed up. Because as soon as you can admit all of your truths and it's like
Mm,
admitting your truths, admitting your faults, admitting your growth, admitting all of this allows your team to grow. And it's amazing because now all of a sudden they feel okay to come to me and say, like, I'm not in a good mood today. Because I'll ask them,
mm,
I'll notice that their energy's down. I'm just like, what'd you guys do last night? Because you guys look a little bit tired today or whatever. And then they're just
yeah.
like, oh, I just didn't sleep, whichever, right? So whatever it is, I mean, it's really just being human.
Mm,
It it it
yeah.
it's just about being curious about the other person. It's about being curious about yourself. I mean, you and I know as coaches, that's all we what from a place of curiosity
Mm,
within self and with others. And then it's just pulling out that realness in somebody.
mm. I love that. And just for context for the people who are listening and watching,
Sure.
because you own a coaching and consulting business, but there's also another business where you have 27 people. What's that business? Just so people have context.
Yeah, so we own it's called Fish and Duck Sprout Lake Resort. We own a resort on this lake in Canada.
Mhm.
It has a pub on it. We rent houseboats, motorboats, do wake surf experiences, and plus we have cabins. So it's a seasonal business.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so we have, there's a lot of moving parts to it,
Mhm.
and yeah, so a lot of moving parts makes my head go every which way. So
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Just so people know, like the things that you're talking about are coming from like day-to-day stuff that you are dealing with every
yeah,
day.
yes,
What occurred to me is, as you were saying, is people can feel you, and I tell my clients that too. Like the come from is so important. Like you can say the nicest thing in the world, but if you are in a mood, people feel the mood in your words, and people's like, well, I was being nice and I told him, and it's like and it says like, yeah, but from the other side it feels like, could you please do this, dumbass? Like you didn't say
yeah,
dumbass, but the dumbass was felt, and people are
yeah,
reacting to that feeling, right? And I think
mhm,
we're a lot more sensitive to that than we give credit for. So, and like I've done that too, where um because one of my businesses is taekwondo, right, and teaching youth, and they pick on that stuff real quickly. Like if you're not in a good place when
mhm.
you're teaching and you're working with them, and you're because it's a physical sport, it's just off, and they mention like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, like on the verge of tears, like I'm okay, and they're like, you know,
But here's the thing. Here's what I would challenge you with. Why do you say you're okay?
that's a good premise, right? I think habitually, right? Habitually, we have um, been trained, and like you said, as a premise, right? We have been trained to always be okay, or like that if you're not okay, it's a weakness, and that reflects poorly on
Yes.
you, right? And I think if we that's a good place to take this conversation, right? If that's the
Hmm.
premise of we always have to be okay and we always have to put on a smile, like what's on offer if you're able to like just really slow down. I'm like, I'm actually not okay today.
Yeah. You know what came to mind on that? Like the whole reason I named my company Smile Inside Out, because everybody who saw me saw my smile. They're just like, ah, she's just so full of energy. And I was literally dying inside. And nobody ever knew that. Why? Because I couldn't be authentic enough to myself or true enough to myself to be able to speak it out. And not that I'm saying like it's not about whining. It's not about going out there and being negative. It's not about um exploring where somebody says, "Are you okay?" and you're like, "Oh my god, my life is over." Like nobody wants that. It's not about that. So let me go back to your taekwondo part where you said the kid asked you if you're okay and you said, "Yeah, I'm okay." But the thing is, it doesn't have to be whichever. All you have to say is like, I have a lot of my mind today. Thank you for reminding me that I'm here with you, whatever it is. Like, I mean, I know that's your softness. I'd be like, yeah, I'm good, kid. Like, but at the same time, I got a lot on my head, right? And the difference is, um, They just will know it's not about them. The reason they're asking you is because you're giving off this energy that is just crushing them, and they can't focus on what they're doing because they're focusing on making sure you're okay. And so you've almost taken, and it's not at fault, but it's almost taken the like it's almost put that lie in there for them because they know that's a lie. And so if you could come from a place, you're like, oh, thanks for seeing that. You're right. Like, I'm a bit off today. I feel that. Even if it's that, even if it's that. And then they learn that little bit of authenticity of it's okay to have an off day. It's
Yeah.
just that
And it's being
style
human.
tweak.
What I realized too is it's almost it's being really responsive to the world. And also I think by you
Mhm.
taking responsibility for and at least having this awareness, actually I'm having a really rough day. It allows everybody else to take responsibility too, right? Because you're leading by example.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me because we're all insecure creatures. It's like I think like
Yeah.
naturally when we see somebody off who's close to us or that we love a lot, we normally blame ourselves. Like, did I do something wrong? Like how can I
Yeah.
make this better? And you're asking other people to try and fix and control things that really they can't because it's your stuff, it's your feeling, right? And I think um it just occurs to me that it's by being more authentic and not having any bullshit on it, you're opening up way more communication that does make life a richer and deeper experience, right? Because I
Mhm.
can imagine how much energy goes into trying to fake being okay, like how draining that must be.
Oh, and people wonder why, like, honestly, people wonder why they go through life tired. It's a
Mm,
beautiful point, Nico. Like, I mean, it's a beautiful point because it's I used to be so tired. I'd sleep all the time. Because and you want like a lot of times, I think that's where I mean, this is completely my perspective on it, but I think that's where a lot of depression comes from,
mm,
where um you're trying to hide your true self away from the world because of fear of judgment, a fear of somebody not liking you. I've
mm,
been working with these amazing women lately,
mm.
and it's all around, I call it like the no bullshit boundaries.
I love it.
Um, and but the thing is, like, so many people are so fearful to set boundaries that give themselves self-love. They are so afraid to set boundaries because of the resistance that somebody is going to not be okay with it. So, for example, if for a simple example of us, it's like 10:30 at in the evening for you, and it's 7:30 in the morning for me.
Yeah,
So if I was to say, hey, Nico, if you wanted to do this at noon, I would have to set a boundary that says, Nikon, I'm sleeping, dude. Like, I can't do it at for your time at noon. And
yeah.
so it's might be a simplistic example, but the thing is, I don't I don't hold that like, oh, I hope Nikon doesn't judge me that I'm like not wanting to do this podcast, or I'm not
Mm,
wanting to be part of this environment that he's offering me, or anything like that. And people can really get into a spiral of thought around that,
mm,
of just so much scarcity around, we can't make this work. I used to do that with clients, and I remember you and I having this conversation of not giving value to our time. And we would, do you remember? I don't know if you remember that conversation. I was, we were kind of having a talk, something about um clients wanting to be with us at certain times, and we would do 7 days a week, whatever
oh
time
yeah,
it
all the
was,
time
and
I'm
we were
available
exhausted
24/7. Yeah,
because here
yeah,
we are coaching somebody at a time when, like, I'm not smart in the evenings at all. I just like I start to drool, something happens to my brain goes mush. So I literally cannot coach in the evening. It wouldn't be beneficial to my clients, and I know
yeah,
this about myself. And
yeah.
I remember when I first started coaching that I
Mm,
was so like I would say yes to everything, but what I was
mm,
doing was saying no to me, that I'm not good enough to stand for myself. I'm
mm,
not good enough to be in that place where I can actually have what I want and really give myself self-care. I need to be the best version of myself for my clients, but I wasn't even being that for myself. And that's because I was inauthentic. I really
Mm.
was, as simple as that seems. And but it truly does come from that place.
What I just heard in what you said was really cool. Well, two things actually. So the Scottish mystic, right, 𝗧𝗵𝘌 said like if people just
That
learn
was
to
good.
not be afraid of their experience, like that alone would change the world. And I think you said that beautifully. If people just weren't so afraid of judgment or judging themselves, or other people judging themselves, like their behavior would change because they'd be more free in their minds. And the second thing that came to mind was gosh, you said it too. Yeah, right. All right. You said how when you when you became more authentic, you were more of yourself, which and you said your best self, right? And to me, I love that because that's my thing too, where it's like your best self is already in there. You don't need to work on that shit. You need to like
Yeah.
stop doing things that keep you from naturally being in that place.
Well, you know what just came to me on that? Because
Mm,
it's almost like I lied to myself because in the evening, I'm my best self just relaxing. I'm my best self
yeah.
just being. I'm not in a place where I want to coach people in the evening. So
Or
it's
work, right?
it's
Yeah.
act or work, right? And I have that ability to,
Mm,
and especially when somebody else's concerns are in my hands kind of thing and
mm,
circumstances are in my hands to listen to and to get curious about because that's my it's almost like my um I'm like it's my daydream time because I just go off into la la land, think about the day, create new things for the next day, but it's not about it's about me having my own space
mm,
and almost like in my own container, and that's when I know it's my evening time. I mean, most of the time you and I have conversations in the evening because
mm,
you're up or whichever and but that's my
yeah.
downtime where I'm just, like it's my playtime almost. And for you and I normally get on the phone and we play. This is rare that we work. But
Yeah.
you
Well,
know what
that's
I
the
mean? Like
yeah,
it's just
yeah. Well, that's where this podcast came about because like there were so many life-changing insights from me in our conversation. So like, we should just record one of these things so other people can
oh
get
my goodness,
benefit
to be
of
a
it too.
fly, to be a fly on our wall on our it should be like the X-rated version of Nikon and
So much
Kryssie.
shit
Like,
talking. Like
oh,
that's how we connected. We connected over just talking massive amounts of shit. But it was really insightful that I would walk away of like, oh my God, this changed my life. I think um from watching you be authentic, I've definitely learned to stand up for myself and say no to a lot of things. Because I used to do that too.
mm,
Because I would, as a new coach, I want to impress everybody and be likable. And now I'm like, no, 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 no. And surprisingly, the no's have made so much more space for all the really good
mm,
yeses. And that was cool to see actually. And I really credit you for that because I think that's a good example of what's on offer from no bullshit leadership and setting boundaries, right? Because just by your example, my life has changed and my life has improved by being
mm,
around you. Um, I wonder if you could speak to how no bullshit leadership links to boundaries, because I know that's something you're working on now too. Like,
mm.
how did you get to that?
Actually, I kind of did a survey on I was kind of doing some market research on
Mm,
just understanding really because let me back up a bit. Part of, I mean, and you know this, part of understanding who we are as a coach in the coaching industry, a lot of the times, I'm going to call you out on this. I love that. Thank you for muting because I would have started laughing, but I did anyways. Part of us as being coach is there's this pressure to have a niche. There's this pressure to be a certain kind of coach. You can't coach everybody and stuff like that. Part of it is true. I agree with that now that I'm experienced and I have years under my booty as a coach. The thing that you're muted, you know that, right? the thing, the thing that was intriguing to me is
mm,
just to dissect really who my clients were, what kind of
Mm,
clients were coming to me, because I did take everything and everybody under the sun. And so what I really started looking in myself as what was where within my clients and each client, where was I lit up?
mm,
What struck me so in like intensive that I was just so engaged, and it was all around how people stood for themselves in boundaries. And it's not about the ego saying, yeah, I'm not doing this or whichever. It's almost like a
mm,
silent boundary. It's it's just being in that leadership role to say no without actually letting them know that you have a boundary, as if it's a punishment. It's not a manipulation. And so
mm,
many people think that boundary is a manipulation, or that these people are going to get so mad. And maybe they will, but that's them. Like, you know what I mean? And it's doing your work in order for you to understand and have that ability to handle the resistance that's going to come forth if it comes forth.
mm,
So, as much as, like, for example, like I was you remember I was coaching a fella in Thailand, and that was like the defining moment for myself of how much I would alter who I was in order to have him as a client.
mm,
And um, I was up at 5 in the morning coaching him because he wanted to go to the gym and stuff like that. I'm like, wait, where's my freaking life? Where am
mm,
I having self care? And
mm,
it was almost if, um, like, it was just a trigger kind of came about where I'm just like, I need to create something for me
mm,
that stands for both of us. Because in my head, I have a little bit of resistance that I noticed when I was coaching, because I was pissy at myself for saying yes to 5 in the morning. And so for me, it's just realizing and having that alignment, and just, okay, saying, okay, so I'm going to have a boundary that I don't coach at 5 in the morning anymore.
mm,
And I didn't tell him that I didn't coach at 5 in the morning. I just shifted how I spoke. Oh, by the way, I only have these slots available.
mm,
Do any of these work? Or I have these slots available. Do any of those work? I was very mindful of the time change and everything else like that. And guess what? It worked. He was fine with it. It was all in my own thinking around what the boundary was. And so without even testing it, or like inviting that conversation to be placed, you would never know. It's just your thinking.
mm. Yeah, I love that. What occurs to me when you said it's just my thinking, it really sunk in. I'm like, oh wow, we really do live in our own thinking, and then our world
Yeah.
changes when the moment we see our thinking and like, oh wow, I've been operating this way.
Hmm.
Um, I
But
think I had a similar experience with me where I'm trying to think of a good. Definitely too. I had a similar thing to you where I was just wanted to coach everybody and work with everybody, and then at some point it became obvious what I was really good at. Like I really love um,
yeah.
working with
And
businesses
so
and like
that's
helping
kind of
people.
where,
Yeah. Mm,
but that's exactly where I went to, is because then I realized, like, okay, here I'm setting my own boundaries. And then all of a sudden I started dissecting every single one of my clients and realized it was really about their thought process of how they saw themselves. And
mm,
it was no um, surprise to me, really, because that's how I saw myself. And we know, as coaches, we attract our people
mm,
by how we stand in our own way, kind of thing. And as
mm,
we grow, we help the people that grow in the same manner. So
mhm,
for me, here I was not holding my boundaries. And once I got it, it was like what I was learning in that moment, I started implementing it with my clients. And all of a sudden, because I came into my authentic self as a coach, boom, it was just like people were blowing up in their ability to just, like, this one woman I worked with her. This She's my favorite story, really. She was like having such a difficult time in life. She already was somewhat successful,
mm,
but she had, by the time we finished a year's coaching, she had tripled her income. She had like had a small hub of a company and then expanded it out, almost like baby franchises.
mm,
She had another company that she baby franchised out. She ended up like just skyrocketed. Now she is like she has so many, her new problem is she has so much money she doesn't know what to do with. And I mean, that's a good problem to
Great
have.
problem to have.
It's a great problem to have. But the thing is, it all stemmed from her. Like what was happening, she was getting so overwhelmed because she wasn't authentic. She was doing everything for everybody else and she never stood for herself. And not in a negative way, like, no, I'm not doing this for you. She
Mm-mm-mm.
stood for herself in pure self love and understanding that the people over there that she had to create the boundary around, or the circumstance over there that she had to create the boundary around, it was okay for that to happen every single day. If it was, you cannot change the circumstance. And so as soon as you're okay with the circumstance happening and over here, self love, the boundaries just allow your process just to be. It is a magical solution and it works every single time. And it's doing your work to be okay with me saying, "Hey, Nikon, I have to do this in the morning because that's where my brain power lies." You
Mm.
know, like, and I have to be okay with you over there saying, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Peace
Mm.
out. We'll talk in the evening and just
Yeah.
chew the shit, and you can privately record us."
I wonder if, as you were speaking, it occurred to me, I wonder if, are you humming?
No, I just because I get all excited about
Mm,
I get all excited about, you know me, I get like
yeah, yeah,
pumped
yeah.
about the topic, so I had to bring myself back down. I just
No, no.
did a
Hey, you
I
gotta be
did my
authentic.
silent.
Gotta let it fly. Let it fly.
I know, but I
Yeah.
had to do my Ujjayi breath because I was like, oh, that got me all worked up.
Oh, oh, love it. Well, that's how
Did
you
you?
know it's a good talk, right?
Yeah, so I call Nikon out when he mutes himself for burping, and he calls me out when I do my Ujjayi
Don't
breath.
tell everybody. Now they're gonna know. No. So,
It's perfect. Authentic self, dude. Nobody judges. And if they do, it's all good.
anyways. Jeez. All right. I remember what I was gonna say now. I wonder, speaking to your client's
Mm,
story, it's almost as if the moment all their attention stops, because you said it, you said like the moment they stop trying to control circumstances, they can't, all that attention and energy comes back to themselves. And then the boundary thing is obvious. It's like, well, obviously I need to take time for myself.
mm,
Obviously I need to not take calls at 5 a.m. And I guess that's what I really see as being on offer with No Bullshit Leadership, or just being more authentic, because you bring back the energy to you. And you notice where it's going to places where it's not helpful, and
mhm.
solutions just naturally become obvious. Or it's like, yeah, of course I'll set a boundary. Of course I need to take care of myself better if I want to be at my best with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to people having a hard time trying to control circumstances that they can't, like the people learning to see that for themselves and letting go of that? What would you say?
Well, um, it'd be the one reason why they're in such a disruption in their life,
Mm,
first and foremost. And it's just really about, well, here's an example. Everybody looks at, not everybody, let me rephrase that. That's not truth. There's many people that look at life
mm,
from a selfish lens.
mm,
Well, I mean, even I do. I look at life a lot of the times from a selfish lens. And I can personally over here, I can correct it because I have the training to correct it. I realize that I'm doing it and I correct it.
mm,
Many people don't have the skills, or they've not been taught the skills or adapted to the skills that they might have read in a book or whatever. They've not implemented it into their life to go, oh, hey, I'm doing that thing again,
mm,
which allows them to really see that trying to control another person. Because my favorite question when somebody says, oh, but this person's not won't stop doing this, and I'm just like, how hard is it for you to control maybe your diet? How hard is it for you to like for somebody else to control you? Do you like being controlled? Like all
mm,
these
mm,
kind of
mm,
things. Like I put it back on the person to kind of experience that in an emotional state and a thinking state.
mm.
Because here's the thing, nobody likes to be controlled.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that say, oh, he controls me. Well, because you allow it. So, and then there's like a depth to that as well. And it's not blame, it's not anything. It's just how we're being in ourselves, and what we think we're doing is right in that moment. So, for example, those who say he won't stop doing XYZ are only looking at XYZ as it's about them.
Mm.
It's not about them. It's about that person over there doing XYZ. And
Yeah.
if we knew that it was that simplistic, and it
Mm.
had nothing to do with us, and they can do XYZ all they want, but if they do XYZ, my boundary is I'm going to step over here.
Mm.
They don't need to know.
Mm.
Like, I have situations in my life, if one person comes to in my space, I am pleasant, I say hi, and I just excuse myself. I don't need to be in that space, because it's just allowing yourself to be in self-love, in
Mm.
respect for yourself.
And there's something really interesting about that too, in dealing with, I guess in business or in anything, like anywhere,
Mhm.
dealing with difficult people. Time and time again, I've seen with my clients that the moment they stop trying to control those people change to them, because it's like the way they see
Yes.
them changes, and they're like, is this the same
Oh, it's like the
person?
heavens
Oh,
open
right.
up,
It's
right?
like, and they're like, what changed? I'm like, well, nothing changed. You just stop
You
looking for the
teach
thing.
people how to
Yeah.
treat you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When you create these boundaries, you're still teaching people how to treat you, but they know that they like, it's almost like, okay, so if I see Kryssie, she's going to say hi and she's going to have something else to do. That's just what happens. And that's all he knows. This person knows about me.
Mm.
That's all he knows about me, is I just always have things to do. And it's peaceful. I respect the person for like being there, and I will not have a conversation with him. And so it's just because, in my opinion, he speaks negatively about other people, and I will not be in a circle of gossip. So I remove myself. It's that
Mm.
simple. It's just a boundary I have. It's not personal. And
So,
so
yeah.
it's a beautiful way to be, because I can sit there, and this is what normally happens, or possibly could happen a lot of the times, is people will sit in conversation, stew within themselves, and start calling them names like, oh my God, can you, like, why won't you just shut up about this person? But nobody stands for their own self.
Mm.
And sometimes if I get caught, I will actually speak to it in a positive way, just like, well, you don't know the whole story, or maybe it's a possibility that you could that be truth, or that's just your
Mm.
perspective on it. Like, I'll just play that game, so that he constantly caught, like, he won't, there's no, it's like putting like oxygen on a fire, or not putting
Mm.
oxygen on
Mm.
a
Mm.
fire, like a blanket, or the giving it air. It's the same thing. And so I choose to just really stand for my boundaries. It's not in egotistical ways, because some people can come from that, but ego creates the manipulation side of it.
Mhm.
And so it's just all these like moving parts. And so a lot of the times I work with my clients that they'll have a circumstance come up, and their thinking might be a little bit foggy around it, because they're looking at it from, they're doing this to me. Well,
Mm.
no, they're just doing it. And
Yeah,
so I work
your thinking flavors that experience.
right.
Yeah.
And because we come from a selfish place, of course it's to you. Why wouldn't they be like,
Yeah.
they're all they're doing is thinking about you,
They're just trying to
right?
ruin
And
my day.
yeah, exactly. That's their whole
Of
intent
course
when
they're
they
the
wake
asshole.
up. Yeah, as soon as they wake up, their intent for the day is, I'm gonna mess with Nikon's head. You know what? Like, who does that? I don't know. Maybe some people do.
Caleb does
And
that. If you're listening,
Caleb,
Caleb.
Saskatchewan boy.
Yeah.
Um, but like, that's the thing. Like, they create this circle of thoughts, and then that thought, I mean, I believe this is Michael Neal's, is that there's a thought that appears, and then there's all this crap thinking around it, which creates a bigger story, which then becomes belief, because we've done this repetition, and it creates this pathway in our head that thinks, oh, they're doing that thing again. I told you it'd happen again.
Yeah.
Instead, it's a new way of thinking. So that's why I always work with my clients in around that kind of period to say, okay, you're doing this, let's change it, shift it, go out in the world and try it. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, that happened, but this happened. Okay, so that's called resistance. Let's work through that. And then they get, it's like these steps, and all of a sudden they just become more and more powerful within themselves. And it's not about being overpowering or overpowering somebody else, but it's about powering themselves to stand exactly where they are. And it's such a beautiful, it's just like a flower opening up in spring. If you can imagine that, like that's really how I feel. Like I'm like
Yeah.
soft right now. You just made me soft.
Yeah, you're usually the hardest. You're like the hardest bitch I know. And look at you, like you big ass softy.
This is me. I described it to a flower. What else could I? It's like a cocoon.
Because and that was beautiful, by the way. I loved the way you articulated that. I had a meme I posted in a group. It was like, I had this insecure thought float by and I took that personally. And it's like the
So
Michael
good,
Jordan meme,
right?
right? Like that's what I do. That's what I do all the time. And
Oh man. You have to
yeah,
put like you have to put that quote underneath in the description because that is awesome.
yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
so true.
I so because you and me are
How people
human.
show up.
Yeah, oh shit.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Because you and me are human, I'd love for you and me to explore what are some of the things that you and me habitually try and control that we really have no control over. So for me, I definitely try and control how long things will take to complete or be successful. You know, like that shit messes with me
Yeah.
all the time. And I have made up timelines that, okay, by this age or by I should be here, blah blah blah. I let that mess with me all the time.
One of my biggest things is I can do it myself.
Mm,
I very rarely ask for help. And until I am to the point, here's a perfect example. I have a guy right now in middle of Canada working on my Google because I saw that working on my Google
nobody heard it.
because yeah because for 2 years, I have tried to get G Suite up and going. I may be not the greatest with trying to figure that stuff out, but I couldn't for the life of me figure it out for 2 years.
Mm,
2 years. And then I almost had a nervous breakdown trying to figure it out. Instead, it was literally 2 seconds, me finding this amazing guy who does this for a living, Nikon.
mm,
And I was trying to figure it out, wasting so much precious time for me doing exactly what I want to do. And so that is one of my things this year is really letting go and creating that container for myself to say, you know what? You don't have to do it all because my skill is my skill. I don't need to learn all the other things. Great book that I'm onto right now, by the way, is Who Not How. Um, Dan Sullivan is one of the authors, and Ben, and I apologize because I cannot remember Ben's last name. Who Not How. Dan Sullivan is like a coaching guy, but it's about who to hire and not how to do it because
mm,
we all have our skills on one thing. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but we have our own personal skills. And
mm.
so why am I trying to figure out how to run the back office of Google when I can just hire someone to do it because I have the means to? It's just ridiculous. So now, like my team, my coaching team is starting to grow. I have like VA now, like a virtual assistant. I'm getting like, I just like, what am I waiting for? Like, seriously, I don't
Yeah.
want to check my emails that, like I want to be able to have things filtered. I get spam emails all the time from somebody saying that they are going to get me to 6 to 7 figures. Dude,
In 2 days.
okay. Yeah, in 2 days. So to me, it's just like, get through all that fluff and just give me the real meat and potatoes, right? Like that's, yeah,
Mm.
that was such a Canadian thing to say, hey, or a.
Yeah, we haven't figured it out yet. Kryssie is as Canadian as it comes.
Oh
um,
no,
go
oh
ahead.
no, I have to. What does my American friend say that? Or get her done, or no, not get her done. I don't remember. He always bugs me. Toque. We say toque. Do you know what toque is?
What's the toque?
it's like a hoodie or not, or a, like a, I guess you call it a hat, like a woolly hat that you wear in the winter. What do you call it?
A hat? I don't know. Like in Thailand,
Toque.
we don't really
Well, I
wear
guess.
woolly hats. It's hot here.
You wait to, well, you'll have to come in the winter time, other or in the summertime then when you come visit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway, you know,
yeah.
like part of it is just really standing. And I always say to my clients, just stand in your truth. Like if that you can almost feel, like I call it the niggle. It's like you can feel
A
when you're
niggle
lying to your a niggle.
sounds
It's like a
so it
nickel.
sounds so like inappropriate, but also interesting at the same time.
That's kind of who I am, isn't it? I'm kind of inappropriate, but I'm really interesting. Is that going to be my nickname
Keep
now?
going, Kryssie. Keep going.
Oh,
Tell me
I
more
love
about
you.
these niggles.
It's almost like you have that part of your body that talks to you all the time. There's the loud voice in your head that is your bullshit story.
Mm,
Then there's the real truth that lies within you that really dives into your true story. It's like that authentic self that allows you to know you're lying to yourself. So, for example, like when I corrected myself about everybody does that, it was like, I had that niggle one. Yeah, no, that's not true. Like, that's not true. Not everybody. That's such a wide statement that that possibly cannot be true. So
mm,
but you'll know that it's like if I'm doing okay. What you probably had that niggle in your gut when you said to that child that you were okay, because
mm,
that's not truth. And so
mm,
if you follow that, that is going to guide you into your authentic self. There's no denying that that voice is there. That's no denying that if you follow exactly that little pinpoint, it's going to direct you into the way of really owning who you are.
mm. So let me expand on that. For me,
Mm.
I love how the way you talk about it, it's pointing to the fact that that niggle, or I call it inner wisdom, but niggle
I
sounds
should
fun
actually
too.
find a proper word. I get caught sometimes with my language and going, "Do you know what
No,
that
but that's
means?"
your truth,
No,
Chris. You should definitely live your
I
truth,
know.
and you know, and but it's true, right? And I think one of the hardest things is to listen to that niggle in this conversation. We'll call it listen to that niggle
Okay, so
when
I just had to Google it just so that we are clear that it's not, because sometimes I get caught. You know this.
yeah.
So it's slight but persistent annoyance, discomfort, or anxiety. A
So
suspicious
it might not be a
niggle
niggle
at the
after
back door of our
all.
mind.
Okay, so for consistency's sake, we'll call it wisdom. So how do you not how, or yeah, how? Because I guess how do you listen or tune into that
Oh, okay, good point.
when you're in a shitstorm in your head, when you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
see your hand in front of your face because everything just looks like like a turn like a hurricane when
Hmm.
and I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially when shit hits the fan, or even me today, because I'm human, right? Like when I get really insecure and I can't see, I can't see my hand in front of my face, and there's an insight that came from that I'll share later, but I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
hear what your thoughts are on that. Like, how do I listen to I think another coach came on, Fiona, and she said it's like you have to listen for the flute in the orchestra, and if you tune into it, if you learn to tune into it, you
Mm.
can always hear it.
Yeah,
So
because what I was going to say in that, it sounds like to me what you were describing or what somebody might experience is the chaos that
mm,
happens in the head when it's so loud that the niggle is like squished,
mm,
right? And so that's what I'm hearing you. Is that correct? Just so I
yeah,
can speak to that.
when
Okay,
the
so
niggle is squished.
when the niggle is squished, very complex. The thing is, so first and foremost, there will be a point where you notice you're in that headspace,
Mm,
right? You'll notice. Is that truth? Like if you were to like experience it, like the thoughts that were like in the
yeah, yeah,
negative thoughts that were happening earlier,
yeah.
you notice you're in that headspace.
Mm.
but there's a payoff that you're getting from being in that headspace. So you choose to stay there.
Mm.
So that's a choice, which is okay. So the thing is, if you can't see anywhere outside of the realm of your hands in front of your face, then go in.
Mm.
That's all. Just breathe. The best breath that I like, hence a fact why when I get hyper and like over creative and just my voice starts getting higher and higher, I literally, you'll watch me, I will actually take a deep breath and calm myself down. It's not of any other reason, just to center myself.
Mm.
And so, yes, the thoughts are so loud,
Mm.
but the thing is, as soon as you notice that you're in your thought process or you're thinking around that
Mhm.
thought, just that's the first positive thing that you can think is, oh, I just noticed I'm doing that thing again.
Yeah.
Just that one little switch is just like, oh, and that's positive. It's not making yourself wrong for being there, but actually making yourself right because you noticed it. That's the
Mm.
first process that I work with. Is like, oh, I'm doing that shit again. And yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah.
So maybe it's excitement because I wasn't in that thought process for so long, whichever. You can make all these positive spins around it.
Mm.
And I'm not saying don't feel what you need to feel, but don't become the emotion.
Like notice it, right? Like you can feel what you're
Notice it.
feeling, but just like notice like,
Yeah.
okay, and even it's like noticing, you know what, like, okay, I'm so in it right now, and now might not be the best time to think of decisions to kind
Yeah.
of to change my life. Like now, like, and
Mm,
Michael Neal said that too. He said like we habitually do that when we're in the shit. We try and make decisions to get out or change our life. Like this is the time, and like this is not the time to make those decisions.
no.
This is the time to take a nap or what,
Yeah.
or
And so
yeah, go for
yeah.
a walk.
Yeah. And so for me, it's just so as soon as you notice,
Mm.
then there's that pause that you're not actually in that emotion anymore because you're in that noticing. And
Mm.
it's like it's a split second, but
Mm.
at that second, you can actually pre-train yourself to actually take the breath.
So to tie this back into no bullshit leadership and being
Hmm.
authentic is the more truthful you can be with yourself, that when you're in this shit and really just acknowledge it instead of trying to layer it on with like nail paint or like with like I'm
Yeah.
fine and like blah blah blah. It's you get back to truth. You get back to listening to that niggle. But
Hmm.
you can't if you're so busy trying to deflect it or I don't know the right word in English, like facade, if you're trying to like everything's
What would
fine,
you
like your
say
house
in
on fire and shit, like yeah.
yeah. Um, so part of the thing, if with anything, whether it be a coach, a mentor, a person that is non-judgmental and will just hear you without um, bringing you, spiraling you down and agreeing with everything you say, because there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Don't have sympathy for people, have empathy for people. You
Mm.
can hold them in a higher place for them to move quickly out of the space, in my opinion, completely my opinion. Some people love sympathy. I hold them in empathy. But in that case, I think and this is where I got caught for a lot of years. I
Mm.
refused, and I gave an example of my Google Drive and my G Suite and my workspace, now that it's called that.
Mm.
Um, we don't ask for help.
Mm.
We don't ask for that clarity. Like for myself, it's why I have you. It's why you have me. It's why we have a container of coaches that we go to. It's why I hired a coach to work with my business.
Mm.
There is no better place to be than surrounded by somebody who believes in you 110%.
Mm. And sees through your bullshit. Yeah.
And the thing is, like you said in the beginning of the call, I can't see my own truth sometimes. There's who
Mm.
you are and where you want to be, and in the middle there's this gap that's almost like you see this huge bridge that's easy to walk across, but that's bullshit because all the rings are missing or rungs are missing. So we as coaches put those rings back together, the rungs back in for you. because you can't see it. So you're constantly tripping because you're getting your foot caught in the spaces that aren't there. And so it's allowing that space to really stand out. And so my growth started when I took on the responsibility of, oh, that thing that they say like a coach should have a coach. Yeah, that's really true. Because it's when I really stood for who I was and how I serve, and then now continuing through life. And whether it, I'm not saying to go out and hire coaches if you can't or don't feel you need it, but I'm telling you, I don't know anybody who doesn't need a coach. I've not met one. The
Mm.
ones that say they don't need them the most, in my opinion. That was judgment, just saying. Let's be real
You're
here.
allowed to be judgy.
Yeah. But
um,
it's just,
mm,
and I mean, the thing is, because why do we say they need the coach the most? It's because we can see it. It's no different than me walking into a room. It's like, I love 𝗓𝗏𝘀𝘀𝗶𝗲 asks this one question. I absolutely love it. What shows up? I love your smile. Who shows up or what shows up in the room when I do? What a great
mm,
question.
mm,
Like, what a great question. And so even in a room full, full of like just people that you don't know, there's an essence about you that shows up in the room that you can't even see sometimes. And so when
yeah.
you show up with essence and all of a sudden you have a conversation, your essence doesn't match your words because you're lost in that gap. You keep tripping.
Mm. In my world, we call it Kryssie flavored God. Like, like it
Kryssie
comes through. The
flavored.
energy comes through us, but it's flavored by us, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's the Kryssie flavored God ice cream, only
Yeah.
found in Canada, right?
Yes. It'd be lactose intolerant ice cream too, by the way.
Yeah. I think that's a great
But it's
place. Yeah,
like,
tell
it's
me more.
cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm done. That's it. No,
All right.
I just think I think
Get
it's
out.
such, yeah, exactly. I think it's such, this is what like fires me up. Like, this is the
Yeah.
part of it that fires me up because the fact that, like, I know that both you and I, because we are so parallel, it's crazy. But we can walk in a room and see who needs coaching. And we don't come from a place of going, oh my God, they need coaching. We really see their potential. You might be Valley girl. I am not. I live in a valley, but I'm not a Valley girl. Um,
Yeah.
but you can see that it's not about hire me. It's not about us. It is about the potential that they have. And you see their essence of just pure light or
Mm.
pure whatever it is that they're showing in a room, and then you have a conversation with them and they're insecure and they feel like they're not enough. They've had this life before them that have guided them to this point here, which has made them strong because they've had these experiences that most people can't survive, but all of a sudden they're just like, it's what has created their strength, it's what's created their mindset, but it's just altering it a bit just to move out of that stickiness and getting stuck. And it excites me. It like, I love it. It's that whole thing when I always say the eyes are the window of the soul. And because I coach on Zoom, I watch body language, I can see. And when somebody's like, they get that aha moment, you know what I'm
Mm.
talking about? They get that
Mm.
insight and their freaking eyes light up. You know that that light in their soul just became part of who they were meant to be. And it's like, oh, there it is. Like, it's just such a magical place to be as coach for them. They just, it's everything that they've always been, but they finally see it. And it's the greatest thing without being emotional about it right now, because I could, but it's really a beautiful thing to see.
Mm. I think that's a good note to complete on that
Hmm.
what you just said, and I'm totally on board with that. And I can see now why you're so good at what you do and how you're so impactful for the people who do work with you. And it's just how much you can see in them, right? Like how lucky
Hmm.
they
I
are.
do call myself a leadership performance coach but my clients call me a no bullshit coach. But it comes, and they always say, but it comes from the most genuine place.
You should
And
have like a business card that just says no bullshit. And like that's the only thing it
right?
says. And the back is just like your like a phone number. Like call me if you're
Yeah.
ready. No bullshit.
No bullshit. Call here. Coming from a farm kid too, hey? So it's kind of comical.
So just for context, so people
Yeah.
understand farm kid, what do you mean?
I was born and raised on a dairy farm. I worked so hard. 5, 6, 7 years old, I was mucking the barns left, right, and center. You picturing it right now? Visual. Kryssie, shorts, gumboots, little tank top, muscles like a bodybuilder. That was me.
Damn.
I would kick your booty.
I have no doubt that you would. And that's
But
why
you know what?
you're in Canada and I'm in Thailand.
Yeah, I'm so grateful though for the experience of that life, because it just, there's so much, like I am a very hard worker, but with everything there's light and dark, right?
Mhm.
And so it's guided me this far, and for a lot of reasons from my upbringing is why I'm a coach. And so I'm grateful in so many ways.
All right. So
And
before,
for
yeah.
you, how
So
many years have we known? We've been best buddies for like, what is it? 5 years
34,
now?
yeah,
4 years?
5 years. Yeah, yeah, it's been a
Something
while.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have grown. Um, Before I let you go, like tell us where we can hang out with you. What are you up to?
Oh, awesome.
What's the best place to reach you? Plug away.
Yeah. So, couple things. There is, if any women are out there that want to, it's a free Facebook group. It's women, authentic women who stand out. You can find any of my work through Googling Smile Inside Out Consulting, or my name, which Nikon will, I'm sure, connect at the bottom. But I'm right now, I'm working on my no bullshit boundary program. It's 90 days. It's a group coaching program, and it starts at the end of February. So I'm really pumped about that.
Mhm.
It's going to be like full on. And I mean, I don't even think I need to speak on it, because basically what we spoke into this is exactly how I show up. So, and I just ask that the people show up, which they normally do because I bring it out in them.
Normally, I would like help plug you too, but everything you said, I was like, I don't think I can do better than that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
I
leave it
mean,
at your.
honestly,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, for like, if anybody wants to like literally have a conversation, they're welcome to throw me an email at Kryssie at Smile and Set Out. Follow me on Instagram and whichever. I mean, I'm on every platform. Um, but I just, yeah,
It better be a
I,
good damn email too, otherwise no reply.
you can just throw boundaries in the subject line and put it down there and then join the program. That's a good one.
That's
Just
a good
do
one.
that. Yeah.
All right, my lovely. I am going to let you go. You are one of my favorite people on this planet. I am so grateful for you and your niggles. That sounds terrible. I'm grateful for you and your
Eh,
presence.
my niggles is what makes me curious.
You need to keep that to yourself. All right, Kryssie, I'll see you later. We'll speak soon. Bye bye.
Peace. Bye.